Welcome to Truth Report. I'm Alex Truth.
And I'm Maya Clarity. Tonight, we expose the shocking underbelly of systems designed to protect us, from the sacred duty of funeral care violated in the most grotesque way imaginable, to global health threats that remind us of our enduring vulnerability.
We'll delve into the audacious attempts by governments to rein in the digital titans shaping our children's minds, and examine the shifting sands of global economic power where once dominant Western brands are forced to adapt or concede ground.
Finally, we'll uncover the whispers of potential breakthroughs in the world's most intractable diplomatic freeze, raising questions about political maneuvering and the true cost of peace. Join us as we strip away the headlines to reveal the deeper truths.
Our first story takes us to the heart of a profound betrayal of trust, a case so disturbing it has left a community in Colorado reeling. A funeral home owner, described by victims as a monster, has been sentenced for a horrifying scheme involving nearly 200 decomposing bodies and fake ashes.
According to reporting from the South China Morning Post, John Halford, the owner of a Colorado funeral home, received a 40-year state prison sentence after stashing an astonishing 189 decomposing bodies over 4 years. This wasn't just negligence. He actively defrauded grieving families by providing them with concrete mix instead of the remains of their loved ones.
The sheer scale of this crime is unfathomable. 189 families, denied proper closure, forced to endure the horrifying realization that their deceased relatives were left to decay in a building, some for years. This isn't merely a business failure, it's a systemic breakdown in oversight for one of the most sacred services a society provides.
Exactly, Alex. During the sentencing, families recounted enduring nightmares filled with images of decomposing flesh and maggots. They called Halford vile and a monster, understandably pushing for the maximum 50-year sentence. The judge's decision to hand down 40 years, while significant, still leaves many questioning how such a prolonged and widespread atrocity could occur undetected.
This wasn't an isolated incident of a rogue employee, this was the owner, operating a facility that should have been under strict regulatory scrutiny. What were the licensing boards doing? What were the state health departments overseeing? The fact that 189 bodies could be amassed and left to decompose for 4 years points to a profound failure in the state's regulatory framework for the funeral industry.
The financial motivation here is clear. Halford collected money for cremation services he never performed, exploiting the most vulnerable moments in people's lives. But the cost to the victims extends far beyond money. They lost their ability to mourn, their sense of peace, and their trust in a fundamental social contract. This is a trauma that will ripple through generations.
And the ripple effect extends to public trust in the entire funeral industry. Every legitimate funeral director, every family seeking solace, is now tainted by this egregious breach. Who benefits? Halford briefly benefited from his monstrous fraud, but now faces decades behind bars. The true losers are the families, whose grief has been compounded by unimaginable horror and disrespect.
This case highlights a critical vulnerability in systems designed to handle death with dignity. When profit motives override ethical obligations in an industry that operates with such inherent emotional leverage, the potential for exploitation is enormous. It demands a hard look at how these businesses are licensed, inspected, and held accountable, not just in Colorado, but nationwide.
The broader implications are stark. If state oversight can fail so spectacularly in a matter of such profound public trust, what other vital, yet less scrutinized, services are operating with similar regulatory blind spots? This isn't just a story about a monster, it's a chilling exposé of regulatory negligence that allowed a monster to thrive.
From the darkest corners of human depravity, we pivot to a very different kind of societal challenge, one that many governments worldwide are grappling with: the pervasive influence of social media on our youth. Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, is proposing a bold and controversial move.
According to Clean Technica, Prime Minister Sánchez is aiming to ban social media for children under 16 years old across Spain. He's calling social media addictive, and is positioning Spain to lead on an issue many nations are struggling to address, seeking a more profound intervention than age verification alone.
This is a significant policy shift, Alex, moving beyond recommendations and into outright prohibition for a specific age group. Sanchez's proposal stems from growing concerns over the mental health impact on adolescents, the exposure to harmful content, and the development of addictive behaviors, which many studies now directly link to excessive social media use.
But the how to do it aspect, as the Clean Technica report implies, is the crucial and complex challenge. How will this be enforced effectively? Will it involve strict age verification on platforms, penalties for parents, or internet service provider blocks? The digital landscape is notoriously difficult to regulate, with VPNs and international access always a workaround for determined teens.
Indeed. While the intention might be to protect children, Such a ban raises serious questions about digital literacy and a child's right to access information. Are we inadvertently creating a generation less equipped to navigate the online world responsibly when they eventually gain access? And what about the potential for a black market of age-gated accounts?
On one hand, advocates for the ban argue that children's developing brains are simply not equipped to handle the psychological manipulation inherent in social media algorithms, which are designed for engagement, not well-being. They see this as a necessary public health intervention, akin to restricting access to alcohol or tobacco.
Conversely, critics point to the potential for isolating children from their peers, especially in an era where social connections are often fostered online. There are also concerns about governmental overreach into parental decisions and individual freedoms, suggesting education and parental guidance might be more effective than a blanket ban.
So, who truly benefits and who loses here? Children potentially benefit from improved mental health, reduced exposure to cyberbullying, and a return to more offline activities. Parents might feel empowered with a clear state directive to support limiting screen time. The biggest losers are undeniably the social media corporations.
Absolutely. Tech giants like Meta and TikTok stand to lose significant user bases and advertising revenue from a key demographic. This isn't just about Spain. If other countries follow suit, it could force a fundamental rethink of their business models and ethical responsibilities towards young users. It's a direct challenge to their power.
This policy, if implemented, represents a significant front in the battle between state regulation and the largely unfettered power of big tech. It underscores a growing global consensus that the current digital environment is failing to protect its youngest users, and governments are now willing to intervene forcefully, potentially reshaping the digital landscape for future generations.
From the digital landscape, we shift our focus to a more ancient, yet ever-present threat: emerging infectious diseases. The World Health Organization has confirmed a fatal case of the Nipah virus in Bangladesh, reminding us of the constant vigilance required against zoonotic pathogens.
Al Jazeera reports that this fatal case highlights the ongoing risk of Nipah, a virus known for its high fatality rate and potential for person-to-person transmission. While authorities in Bangladesh are taking steps to contain it, and the WHO states the risk of global spread remains low, every such confirmed case is a stark warning.
Indeed, Alex. Nipah virus is primarily transmitted from fruit bats, through contaminated food like raw date palm sap, or from pigs, and crucially, it can spread between humans. This zoonotic origin means it's a constant threat where human populations encroach on natural habitats, especially in regions with close animal-human interaction and agricultural practices that facilitate transmission.
The term low risk of global spread is reassuring on the surface, but it's important to remember that this assessment can change rapidly, particularly with increasing global travel. The real challenge often lies in regional containment, especially in countries like Bangladesh, where public health infrastructure can be strained and surveillance systems might have gaps.
We learned hard lessons from COVID-19 about the speed at which a localized outbreak can become a global pandemic. While Nipah is far less transmissible than SARS-CoV-2, its lethality means that even a small cluster can have devastating consequences. Early detection and robust contact tracing are absolutely critical to preventing wider outbreaks.
The individuals and communities directly impacted are the immediate losers. The deceased, their family, and those potentially exposed face severe health risks and profound grief. Public health agencies, both local and international, are stretched, forced to dedicate resources to containment, surveillance, and public education.
Pharmaceutical companies, while potentially benefiting from future vaccine or antiviral development, are not seeing immediate gains from such a rare and sporadic outbreak. The true cost is borne by the public health system, which must constantly be prepared for these unforeseen viral threats, often with limited resources.
This incident underscores the urgent need for sustained investment in global health infrastructure, particularly in countries at the front lines of zoonotic spillover. It's a reminder that our collective health security is only as strong as the weakest link in the global surveillance and response chain.
The connection to broader power structures here is profound. It's about the global governance of health, the WHO's role in coordinating response, the responsibility of national governments to invest in preparedness, and the ongoing challenge of addressing the environmental factors that bring humans and wildlife into closer, more dangerous contact. This constant interplay is critical.
Now, let's shift gears to the global economy and the changing fortunes of Western brands in China. The South China Morning Post reports a significant trend: Western companies are finding it increasingly challenging to thrive in what was once considered a boundless growth market, forced to adapt dramatically or even retreat.
This isn't just about minor adjustments, Alex. The SCMP highlights Starbucks' strategy, for example. They're aggressively using live streaming on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, offering steep discounts like 3 peach lattes for 84.90 yuan. This signals a shift from premium branding to price competition, a stark contrast to their usual market positioning.
And the most telling detail, Starbucks is awaiting regulatory clearance to sell a majority stake in its China business to Boyu Capital, a Chinese investment firm. This isn't just adapting to local tastes, it's a concession of control, indicating that operating independently and profitably has become significantly more difficult in China's evolving consumer landscape.
Exactly. The waning fortunes of Western brands are due to several factors. Firstly, the rise of sophisticated and competitive domestic Chinese brands, which often resonate better with local consumers, sometimes leveraging nationalist sentiment. Secondly, the intense, hyper-digitalized retail environment, dominated by platforms like Douyin, demands constant innovation and aggressive pricing.
The Chinese consumer has also changed. There's a growing guoqiao or national trend, favoring local products that often offer comparable quality at lower prices, imbued with cultural relevance. This, coupled with a general economic slowdown in China, means consumers are more discerning and less automatically drawn to foreign labels.
So, who benefits from this shift? Chinese consumers, for one, gain from greater choice and fierce competition leading to better deals. Chinese e-commerce platforms like Douyin solidify their indispensable role in the retail ecosystem. And Chinese investment firms like Boyu Capital are gaining significant equity stakes in established global brands operating in their home market.
Conversely, Western brands are clearly losing ground. They are losing market share, pricing power, and, as in Starbucks' case, even ownership control. This forces them to relinquish autonomy, adapt their core strategies, or face declining relevance in a market that was once a primary engine of their global growth. It's a major recalibration of power.
This situation reflects a fundamental shift in global economic power dynamics. China is no longer just a manufacturing hub or a passive consumer market for Western goods. It's a highly sophisticated, self-sufficient, and increasingly dominant economic player, dictating terms to multinational corporations rather than merely absorbing foreign investment. It's a new world order in commerce.
The broader power structures at play here involve geopolitical tensions influencing consumer preferences, the undeniable strength of China's tech ecosystem, and the redefinition of global capitalism where emerging markets are no longer junior partners but powerful arbiters of success for even the most iconic Western brands.
Finally, we turn to the perpetually frozen landscape of US-North Korea relations, where a faint glimmer of new progress has been hinted at. This comes from a top South Korean official, as reported by the South China Morning Post, raising cautious expectations.
The official, speaking anonymously in Washington, stated there may be some new progress in a few days, and the SCMP links this directly to speculation that U.S. President Donald Trump could seek a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This phrasing immediately suggests a political rather than purely diplomatic impetus.
Indeed, Alex. The timing is crucial here. If this information is from February 2026, then the mention of U.S. President Donald Trump seeking a meeting implies either a hypothetical scenario or an incredibly specific political context that warrants scrutiny. Such hints often serve to test the waters or signal intent without firm commitment.
The history of U.S.-North Korea talks under a Trump presidency is well documented, high-profile summits, grand pronouncements, but ultimately, a failure to achieve any tangible denuclearization. Frozen ties is an accurate description of the stalemate that followed, marked by continued North Korean missile tests and a lack of substantive dialogue.
So, what does new progress even mean in this context? Is it a genuine shift in North Korea's stance, or is it a political maneuver by a U.S. administration, current or speculative, to project an image of diplomatic engagement, perhaps ahead of a critical election cycle or for other geopolitical leverage? Transparency is notoriously absent in these dealings.
For the U.S., any perceived diplomatic breakthrough, especially with North Korea, could be a significant political asset, regardless of its long-term viability. For North Korea, engaging with a U.S. president, particularly on a global stage, grants legitimacy and could create opportunities for sanctions relief, even without making concrete denuclearization steps.
South Korea, as always, is caught in the middle. They would benefit from reduced tensions on their border and a stable diplomatic track, yet they risk being sidelined or having their security concerns undermined if talks are driven by short-term U.S. political goals rather than a comprehensive, sustained strategy. The anonymous nature of the official's remarks also allows for deniability.
So, who truly benefits? A U.S. president could gain a political win. North Korea gains legitimacy and potentially some breathing room from sanctions. The international community, however, risks another cycle of failed diplomacy if these talks aren't grounded in genuine, verifiable commitments. The potential for false hope and subsequent disappointment is high.
The broader power structures at play are immense. This is about the personal diplomacy of a U.S. president potentially overriding traditional foreign policy channels, the opaque and unpredictable nature of the North Korean regime, and the precarious balance of power in Northeast Asia involving China, Japan, and Russia, all with their own stakes in the stability of the Korean peninsula.
Maya, looking across these diverse stories, from the horrific betrayal in a funeral home to the complex dance of international diplomacy, a disturbing pattern emerges: a profound vulnerability in critical systems, often exploited or challenged by those in power, and a lack of consistent, robust oversight.
Exactly, Alex. Whether it's the regulatory failures allowing a monster to operate unchecked for years, the desperate attempts by governments to protect children from the unchecked power of big tech, or the precarious global health infrastructure facing persistent threats, individuals bear the brunt of systemic weaknesses.
The shifting global landscape is another clear thread. Western brands conceding ground in China, Spain asserting digital sovereignty against tech giants, and the highly personalized, often politically driven, nature of US-North Korea diplomacy. We are witnessing a realignment of power, where traditional hegemonies are being challenged and new forces are taking charge.
And underlying it all is the human cost. Grieving families left with fake ashes, children facing mental health crises from social media, communities threatened by viral outbreaks. These are not just abstract policy debates, they are lived realities of profound suffering and uncertainty.
The impulse to control is also evident. Spain wanting to control social media access for its youth, North Korea seeking to control its narrative through diplomacy, and China controlling its consumer market to favor domestic brands. Power structures are not just being challenged, they are being redefined, often through direct intervention.
Our reporting today highlights that whether the threat is a deceptive funeral director, a global pandemic, or the insidious effects of digital platforms, the responsibility to protect citizens and ensure justice often falls short. It demands not just headlines, but deep, continuous investigation into where our systems are failing.
Truth Report will continue to bring you these critical stories, exposing the gaps where power is abused and where oversight fails. We believe that true accountability begins with unvarnished truth.
We invite you, our viewers, to join this conversation. Demand more from your institutions, question the narratives, and hold power accountable. Your engagement is critical to driving change.
For Maya Clarity, I'm Alex Truth. Thank you for watching Truth Report.
Good night.